I guess my first question is kind of like, how does one go from the bunny game to Snack Shack in just a few films because they're very different ends of the spectrum?
I think that that's a good question, first and foremost. And it's one that there's a thread with all of three of these films, and that is commitment to craft and commitment to an idea. The bunny game was something that I conceptualized with Rodlene Getzik, and it was a very intimate, personal story. I mean, Rodlene was processing a lot of her own trauma from, you know, she had been kidnapped in real life, and it was a cathartic way for her to work. And I was attracted to doing something like that, and it was something that we could do completely rogue on no budget whatsoever, and just the two of us moving through Los Angeles, like riffing and creating this thing. It was like there were like a series of bullet points, that we adhered to for the structure, but it wasn't scripted at all. So it was just this, experiment. But the one thing that thematically the connective tissue is just the dedication to craft and seeing it through, and being involved in every detail of the process, from the writing and the creation of it to the editorial. I shot the film, I did the entire score for the film, outside of a few licensed tracks that we use. But yeah, I mean, I see that commitment to craft and to an idea and execution is the common thread between all three of these films. And Snack Shack was no different. There was a really long maturation process, the film is based on, it's a meditation on my childhood, in my actual hometown, shot with, it's such a crossover of like so my best friend and I were, the kids you see in the beginning. We're gambling, we're taking our track winnings from the Greyhound gambling and sticking it into our real beer operation, and we're trying to build like basically a brewery where we can like sell beer. And we get busted, and we were forced to go legit. And we had to get summer jobs and to stay out of trouble. We weren't gonna. I think it was like the year that my best friend, up until then, we'd done sports and athletics and stuff in the summer and had smaller, like we were all, when the kids are going up and down the streets painting the street curbs and stuff, that's another thing that we did for money. And selling candy, sometimes telling people it was for a school fundraiser when it wasn't, when we were just trying to get money for stuff. So I mean, we tried a lot. We had a lot of little scams and schemes that we used to do to make cash. And then we saw an opportunity with the Snack Shack, and we kind of found out that these, the guys that had been running it, we had seen the amounts of money that were coming in, and we were attracted to that. So we found out what the bid was, and we outbid and won the Snack Shack. In reality, we did it 2 years, and in reality, it was the second year that we like grossly overbid. But I utilized that in this because I thought it was funny. But again, it's just the whole film is this sort of meditation on the things that we were doing and the people that I knew growing up. And I was able to, if you remember back in like Bunny Game Land, you'll see all the note cards behind me. Like when we did did the interview back then, there's note cards aplenty behind me that was all Snack Shack related stuff. So I put up everything that we used to do on the wall, like just kind of like bullet point highlights of everything. Like, we jumped our pools into the bikes. I created fuck dogs and we sold them. We upcharged kids, 75 cents. Like just all these little things, these details. And then I spent a year weaving a story out of those ideas. One that resonated deeply with me and is a true love letter to the people that I grew up with, and the small town that we lived in. Nebraska City, Nebraska. It's the middle of middle America, and it looks great on camera. I mean, I was able to shoot in the, I mean, I was shooting in the theater where I shot, or where I watched, Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Crawl and Splash and an assortment of,
Mhm.
all of the movies of the 80s and 90s were, for me, all watched in the theater where we shot. We're shooting in the main, the main drag, the main street. It looks very similar to what it did. My production designer Francesca was able to accent things at times and make it really feel like it was 1991. Brick line, cobblestone, the brick line streets, First Avenue, Second Avenue. I mean, just gorgeous texture. And then shooting in the height of the summer when, the cicadas are in the trees and I don't know, you can almost smell the grass and whatnot in this film, the cut grass. It's just and then of course the Steinhardt pool, we're shooting in the actual location where my best friend and I ran the snack shack, 32 summers ago. So it's just this like insane collision of my past
Mm.
and my present. My kids are in the movie. They're the hot dog kids, in the film. And so I've got all of these elements to play with. And there's serious actors, like, trained actors with non-actors combined. I mean, it's just, the guy that took our bid in the movie, his name is Scooter. That's the actual guy that took our actual bid 32 years ago, and he's doing it in the old city hall building. Like they had long moved, and I was like, no, I want to shoot in the actual what was city hall for us. And it was like now like kind of just a conference room at the fire station. And so we went and we recreated it, and they took a woodcut. There's a Native American woodcut that's behind the mayor and all this. That was the original one that was in there. It's now at the library, and they moved it over, and we recreated City Hall in 1991. So it was really, really cool to have the entire town as a canvas to work with. And yeah, it's just a deep, deep dive.
Yeah, and it must be, I mean, amazing that, there are still, these people are still around, that, you can get back in touch with them, and that everybody was sort of so willing to, to help achieve this film. Because I guess that's not necessarily true of some other areas, in the world. They might not be as helpful.
So um we had to go out like 2 months prior to filming because we needed to hit a date with the city to kind of be on the docket for the upcoming month to approve all of this. So we were
Mm.
there in like June, hoping that they'd approve us in July so we could start shooting at the end of the July because we needed some city things. The pool's owned by the city. So you can't just walk in and just, like, oh, I want to use this as a location. No, it has to go before the council and the Parks and Rec. It has to do all of this stuff. It was but that said, it was such a bizarre thing to have going on. And actually, it was bizarre and out of the norm for the town, but also very exciting. And one of the
Mm.
selling points was we were going to be dumping money into the community. I mean,
Yeah.
huge amounts of money, hiring people, hiring actors, like all of these things. So it worked both ways. We did this, and I think it was there was a lot of mutual excitement on both for us that we could actually do this. And I mean, the town really laid out the red carpet for us. They never said no. That is a fact. They never said no to anything we asked. And it was just, we had just an amazing summer. It was like summer camp for all of us. And just the most special, loving experience I've ever had making a film.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of people kind of, look back at their youth and almost wish, they had like a time machine to sort of go back. And it kind of seems like, you kind of managed to make your own in a way. You kind of was a, what was it like sort of being transported back to your youth in a way?
When I look at the film, it's weird because it's almost like I have this visual reference of my childhood now, and it's almost like I can look at it whenever I want, and it's really weird. It's a window into it, and it feels, it's not exact, but it's very comforting and it feels very lived in for me personally. When I watch it, I'm just like, wow. It's not, it's like it just it's the essence of something. It's the essence of something. It's the idea of it. And I think more than anything, I'm just it I see the connection between the kids, and I think it's just beautiful, but like I don't see that as much with people now and with kids now. The kids are really present with each other, and that, I think it's hitting people at a universal level when they watch it. Now, I had the screening that we did last night. There were teen girls, elderly women, there were hardcore grindhouse guys all crying, you know, tapping into universal things. And that's
Mm.
cool because I, personally that I prefer a grindhouse, art house, cult, exploitation crowd because they're the best crowd in the world. They're the most passionate cinephiles there are. And that's, from a design standpoint, that's who I'm always designing for. Those are my people, and I want to always have those shades in there. So, if it's, do you want to make out to Combat Shock? That's it's a nod. It's a nod to my leanings.
I really enjoy, like AJ and Moose, especially in the beginning. They're kind of like a Beavis Butthead, Bill and Ted, Wayne and Garth kind of thing. I was sort of like thinking about it after I watched the film. We don't really seem to have many of those double acts anymore. Like, what do you think
I'm
happened to
so
them? What have they
glad that
done?
you said that. I'm so glad that you said that because I said from the beginning with this film hinges on the boys. They have to be a duo, a
Mm.
classic duo. And you just ran off two classic duos, Beavis and Butthead, Wayne and Garth, or it's like any of them. They have to be a complementary thing. One, they have to gap fill, they have to have their own vernacular. See, both of those groups that you just said, they basically finish each other's sentences in their own language. And that's a really interesting point. And I was just always like, these two kids, whoever we cast, you have to aesthetically look at them and say, that's a duo. I see it immediately. And it's just, and that I think in this, I mean, I don't know, it's part Francesca, my production designer, Jean-Philippe Bernier, that I've worked with before on Dinner in America, and Annie and Hannah, who are the costumers. It's almost like Simon and Patty. You've got this. When I see AJ in that very pale yellow Nike shirt, and then I see Moose in this like pink vibrant thing, I know immediately what I'm getting somehow, like just like that, like right off the rip. So um aesthetically, it always had to be, they were contrasty enough from each other that you could just, I don't know, somehow just universally identify what they were. It's a hard thing to do, but you know,
I love how like the script is also sort of like captures like the energy of adolescence. I mean, like sort of when you first meet Moose, he's just talking like for like 5 minutes. He's just like hyped up on like sugar and caffeine and everything. That must have been, it's like quite a lot of pressure for, still a relatively new actor to,
yeah.
nail those lines to, also infuse that energy because I think it's needed to sort of like hook the viewer in at the beginning.
Gabe's agents were all hot for AJ. They hit us up with, for AJ because, he's the window of the summer. He's the lens of the summer, basically. So they were pushing on AJ. Um, I had this kid, Conor Sherry, in the film that I really liked for it. It was, Connor hadn't done a film like The Fablemans or something like that. He hadn't solo carried a film. Um, but his audition tape was just otherworldly. Like, at one point I took a screen grab of the image, and I was just like, I told all of the producers, I'm like, this is the kid. This is him. He just pops out to me. It was his audition tape was the scene where they go to the snack shack the first time. And the moment Moose like throws in the stuff in the film and he says, you know, we got to get this place spick and span before some health inspector comes sniffing around. And he's like, you know, see you later, bitch. He walks out. And in the audition tape, Connor's reaction to that, of him leaving, I froze that moment. It was a brilliant reaction to it. It was so natural. It was the essence of what I was looking for, and I could see it immediately. I just screen grabbed and I said, "This is the kid. This is him. This is what AJ is. He's gangly, and it's it's this kid, this expression." And then so Gabe was all his agents were, you know, hyped about AJ. The second I got on the Zoom with Gabe, he was like, "Yeah, my agents really like AJ, but I fucking love Moose. I want to play Moose." And I was like, "All right, cool. You know, let's talk." You know, and so he Gabe had all. I think he, looking at what he had just done, the Fablemans, I feel like he was more of an AJ type of character in that. And I think the opportunity for him to just do something splashy and I mean, like Moose is a rocket ship. He's amazing. He's just this rocket ship. He's kind of like Simon in a way. It was like reverse. That's kind of what I was thinking about, like the creating the duo, but like having this like force of nature that's just like moving and like pitching these ideas to him constantly. It's just like a motor mouth kind of thing. All of these ideas, you're just trying to track it and keep up with it. But the audience is essentially AJ. We're just getting all of this information and we're just going along with it. We're like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. You want to take a limo to Bluffs Run? We're going to pay some guy $25 an hour. Wait, what? We're using our track winnings to get there. And so it was just a really fun you know, character for Gabe. He just gravitated to it right away, and it was a no-brainer. He was pulling from his friend circle. He has so many like little Easter eggs in his mannerisms that it's in his friend circle. They all know what it is. We don't know what it is, but he's just all, I mean, everything from the little head tilt and the like thing that he does. I mean, it's very nuanced and it's nuanced what resonates with him and his friend circle.
And we have to talk about Dinner in America. You know, this is, you know, like cult film is, you know, I think it's banded around a lot these days. I feel that Dinner in America really is, you know, a cult film. It's slowly sort of built up its following. You know, word of mouth has got around, and now it's, you know, there's so many people that absolutely adore this film. I mean, how does that feel knowing that you kind of touched so many people?
It's wild. I get it a lot. I think the letters that I get are the most beautiful things in the world. You know, I've had so many just letters from people around the world that were neurodivergent that think that they love a relationship with, you know, a neurotypical person and a neurodivergent person. They just absolutely that it doesn't dumb it down, that it makes it real. I those that's what matters to me. Like I didn't know that going into it, so I would be lying to you if I said I had an agenda and that's what I was setting out to do. That happened by Kyle's involvement, Emily's involvement, like how we actually played our cards, the sensitivity that we had to the subject matter, the way that we flip and kind of pull the audience in with something very like my idea for Dinner in America was you're getting a punk rock mixtape and
Yeah.
it's you're a parent and you're listening to it and the music's very abrasive and you don't you're like I don't like this, it's loud and it's crazy and what's happening, but then you start to hear the lyrics and the lyrics you realize that this aggression and all of these things is because the world is completely fucking insane and you realize like you're like I don't know, it's just like I always think about parents like, you know, like it's like classic shit like turn down that music, you know, kind of shit. And but are they really listening to the lyrics and what the people are trying to say, what the singer's trying to say, you know? I've always liked that juxtaposition of, you know, punk music or maybe metal or other things and just how the lyrics are so, you know, even like Black Sabbath and stuff, like read the lyrics and what's really going on in there. You know, and then you have sort of conservatives that try, it's like Satan's music, you know, or something. And you're like, Well, that's because like if you it's really about capitalism, you know? It's just it's like you need to take a peek. So yeah, I really always that was kind of the design for Dinner in America was to make something really abrasive, but show the heart underneath it and the message underneath it. And then you get sucked in and you kind of the other thing tapers off and it becomes a love story.
Something that I enjoyed about, watching Snack Shack, being such a big fan of Dinner in America, is sort of noticing like the little bits of sort of like DNA sort of like threaded through, the houses almost feel, very, very similar. The dinner scenes are shot, very much
Bada
sort of
boom, bada bing.
very much the in the same way. Is there a way that maybe Snack Shack and Dinner in America, everyone's talking about universes these days, could they be connected? Are they in the same world? Is that how you sort of see them?
I do. In fact, if there is a Patty Schulk Easter egg in there, can you find it?
Well, I've only seen it once. I'll go back and I'll have a
Well,
hunt.
you might have to look. There, so I will tell you this. You have to find baby Patty. She's in there.
Mm.
There is there and actually Jean-Philippe Bernier and I were talking about it the other night that 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 it really could be on the timeline like of when Dinner in America takes place. It really could be baby Patty there, but it was never. I don't think we ever. No, we did say Michigan. Be pretty weird. She could have moved. She could have moved. Although, but there is a young girl that is kind of our baby Patty in there. She is somewhere in the film. You will see if you look for her. So I would say you got to look where the kids are in the movie, like the young kids. I'm saying that she's like 7, 8 years old, somewhere in that space. So take a look. You might find a baby Patty in there. Also, we did the sort of north, south, east, west dinner scene, the shot it
Yeah.
exactly the same way. That was yes, 100% a nod to Dinner in America, a total Easter egg for fans of Dinner in America. Very conscious with Jean-Philippe Bernier about how we were going to do that. And I'm glad that you picked up on that. But yes, we did that intentionally because it was that original Dinner in America scene was based on kind of the family rhythm that I had at home with things, and so Patty's family always felt like mine, kind of at the dinner table in a way. So it was fun to do it twice, but this time we had Jillian Vigman, and Jillian just goes like totally ham on that auction roll, like that was just otherworldly. I think, and Jillian is like badass, Second City, like improv artist, like just amazing. My mom did the auction chant into a recorder. I sent Jillian the file 15 minutes before we did that scene. So she came up with that in about 15 minutes. So I just give her props because she's a total badass.
And are you kind of hoping? I know obviously Dinner in America was a very special film. Are you hoping to maybe bring the band back together, not necessarily to do a sequel as such, but to get to work with like Kyle and Emily and Pat and everybody again?
I would love it. I've always like wanted to do a sequel to it, and actually, I've wanted to stretch it out. I'll just tell you what it is right now. It's Simon and Pat. Simon gets out of prison, and Patty is waiting right there. And this movie is I like it as episodic. It basically the first season is just them creating um together, like making an album. They find a dream team of musicians in Detroit. They assemble like the dream team and they get into the studio and they start recording. And as they build songs and other things from the past and present collide, it stays with the tone of it, but essentially at the end of it all, you get an album of banger fucking songs that these two write in conjunction with a series. In the second season, they go on tour, and you get to see what that looks like. So I've already thought of it. I would love to do it. So if anyone hears this and wants to pursue it, let's do it because I would love to work with Kyle and Emily. I love them so much. So
Well, I mean, I'm there. I converted several members of the UK, so we'll be there whenever it gets made. I mean, just
But well, I
touching
love
on the
that
music.
right there. I love that right there. Why should they tour the US? It should be a UK tour. The second half should be in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, that would.
Um, yeah, but obviously, while we're talking about music, obviously the watermelon song, there's covers of that on YouTube now. What's that? Has that, sort of like Googling watermelon song and then
I love
suddenly
them.
seeing
I always,
people.
yeah, I love sending them a message like, I love this music. I love that you're doing this. If Taylor Swift could just cover it, then I'll be set for life. You know, come on, Tay, let's do it.
Yeah, come on. We know you're watching, Tay. Uh, um, I guess, my final question, bringing it back to Snack Shack. Why do you hope that people, find this film? What you're hoping that they get from this film when they seek it out?
I already know what they're gonna get when they seek it out. It's gonna spark their own narrative about their own summer jobs and first loves and sort of these proto relationships that are the building blocks of our later relationships. I mean, that's what I'm fixated on here. It's like so often they're just sort of breezed over, but you're a collection of the relationships previously that you had that led up to the point where you are now. And film is a way to honor that. It's a way to honor those, proto relationships that help to teach you things, about how to be in a relationship. Aha, there she is. So I thought that was a really interesting kind of angle in it. So I mean, for AJ and Brooke, if you want my honest opinion, they send postcards to each other pretty heavy for 6 months, and then one month it's like a little bit light, and the next week it's a little, the next month it's a little lighter, and it just gradually tapers off until it's 30 years later they're Instagramming each other and going, "Oh, that's what happened to you."
Cool. Well, I wish you the best of luck with the film. I'm sure. I mean, especially fans of Dinner in America, they're really gonna connect with this one, I think.
I think so too. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, and just thank you again for Dinner in America. I mean, I think people might be getting a little bit sick of me talking about it.
No, I love dinner so much. I think that I feel a little ripped off that I didn't get to do a theatrical, a bigger theatrical thing with Dinner in America. Like, I'd love to see this as a double bill. I think they would play I think that's an incredibly fun double bill. But question, what's first and what's last in the double?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, it would probably be the way that I saw them. It would be dinner, and then it would be because, like I say, obviously you've got like the bunny game, which is very, very aggressive and very intense and dark, and then you've got dinner in America, which is this very punk rock. And Simon's mean to Patty. He's very, very mean. And then you get to this film, and even when it's mean, it's not quite as mean. So it's kind of it's sort of like
Start loud. Start loud.
yeah, yeah, and then sort of mellow
Funny
mellow
'cause
out.
I was thinking the
Uh,
opposite way, and then I'm not now. Now I'm converted because usually in a double bill, I think the banger has to go first, like just like something that really thumps, and then you can taper it up. I like how Snack Shack, like I like how it breezes out at the end. So I would say that that's a perfect double, like dinner and Snack Shack in that order. Yeah.
yeah, I think you kind of need the time to breathe after snack as well because
You want
it's
everyone But you want
that's sort of like
everyone
oh
coming in like from the bar or where you want them coming in like tipsy and crazy for dinner in America, and then it like gradually as they're sobering up in the theater, you want them to you know uh taper off and be like meditative as they drive home.
yeah, but this has been a lot of fun. This one's behaved. Yeah, that one she almost I just threw my phone at her and away she went. Uh, Never to be seen again. But yeah, I think it's so nice to to get to talk to you, and I will beat the drum about this film, and I will continue to beat the drum for Dinner in America because it's an
Yeah,
amazing
I
film.
appreciate you very much.